Welcome to Middle Math Academy. This is rates level number 4. If we're moving a little bit too fast in this lesson, feel free to check out levels 1 through 3. We also have level 5 for some more challenge. Our learning targets today are I can find the unit rate and unit cost, and I can solve real-world problems and explain my reasoning. Go ahead and rate yourself 1 through 5 before we get started. How confident do you feel in these learning targets? 1 is the least amount of confidence, 5 is the most confident. Once you're done rating yourself, pause the video and complete our opening problem. As a reminder, this video will not go over every single problem, so please make sure to write what I write, keep up with the notes, and follow along with the examples so that when you are practicing on your own, you feel confident. Let's take a look at our first note. A rate compares two quantities that have different units. So an example could be miles and hours. 60 miles in 5 hours. Now, a unit rate or a unit cost, know how it's unit, singular, 1, has a denominator of 1. So an example could be miles per hour, 1 hour. So to find the unit rate, we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. Don't forget, this fraction line means divide. So if I have 6 over 2, that really means 6 divided by 2. And I want you to write that as well. Now, when you divide, the denominator will be what you want 1 of. So if we wanted 1 hour, whenever we were dividing, we would put hours on our denominator. Let's look at example A. A says, if Morgan earned $35 in 2 hours, how much money did she earn in 7 hours? So before we figure out 7 hours, we have to figure out how much in 1 hour. So I know hours are going to be on our denominator, and we're going to do $35 divided by 2 hours. 35 divided by 2 is 17 5/10. But since we're talking about money, I know money always goes to the hundredths place, so I'm going to add a 0 there. So Morgan earns $17.50 per hour. If you want to write 1 hour, that's fine. Usually we just write hour without the S, so we know that it's just 1. Now that we figured out our unit rate, let's go ahead and write in that note. Step number 1 is dividing to find the unit rate. Step number 2 is we are going to multiply to find the rate. So now we'll multiply our numerator and denominator by 7, and that will give us our rate. 1750 times 7 is 122.50. And so if you plug this in a calculator, once again, you'll just see the 0.5. Remember to add a 0 since we're talking about money. So Morgan would earn $122.50 in 7 hours. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need more time. Let's take a look at example B and C. All right, I'm going to do B with you and then have you work on C on your own. B says, if chairs are sold at $65 for 12, how much do 16 chairs cost? Round to the hundredths place. Remember, the hundredths place is 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So step number 1, we're going to divide to find the unit rate. So I'm going to do $65 divided by 12 chairs. And notice I put chairs on the denominator because we need to figure out the cost of one chair before we can figure out the cost of 16. All right, so 65 divided by 12. When I plug that in my calculator, I get 5.4166, blah, 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 7. Okay, so if we're rounding to the hundredths place, that means I'm going to have two numbers to the right of my decimal. All right, so this is either going to stay 5 and 41 hundredths, or it's going to bump up one to 5 and 42 hundredths. It all depends on the number after the 1. If the number after the 1 is 5 or higher, we'll round up. So the number after the 1 is a 6. That's 5 or higher. So I'm going to round up to 5 and 42 hundredths. So our unit cost is 5 and 42 hundredths per chair. Unit rate and unit cost are the same thing. We just say unit cost when it has to do with money and the price per item or the price per chair. All right, we completed step number 1. Step number 2 is to multiply to find the rate. So we need to multiply this by 16. Now, just a quick calculator note. Don't just multiply this times 16. Since we already rounded, let's go ahead and do 5 and 42 hundredths times 16. And we get $86.72. For 16 chairs. And then I'm just going to circle my answer. Go ahead and pause the video, complete example C, and come back once you're done with example C. Here's the first thing you should have written, $6 divided by 12 packs. Then you should have it labeled 50 cents per pack. That's our unit cost. And I realize I wrote rate instead of cost over here. We're dealing with money. You might also hear it called unit price. Anywho, we found our unit cost. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is to multiply to find the rate. So you should multiply each of these times 19, and you get $9.50 for 19 packs. Pause the video, make sure you have this down. Come back to the video when you're ready for page number 2. All right, on page number 2, I want you to complete problems A and B on your own. So pause the video and only complete A and B. Come back to the video once you finish B. Let's take a look at problem A. The first thing I want you to check is that you set up your problem by writing 219 minutes divided by 11 miles. Once you divided your numbers, you should have rounded to 19 and 91 minutes per mile. Then we multiply our unit rate by 50, and you get 995 and 50 hundredths minutes for 50 miles. Remember, we're rounding to the hundredths place. For problem B, since we're looking for 9 miles, you should have miles on your denominator. The first thing to check is that you have 35 minutes divided by 8 miles. Once you get that, your unit rate is 4 and 38 hundredths minutes per mile. Check to make sure you rounded correctly. Once you get your unit rate, we multiply it by 9 and we get 39 and 42 hundredths minutes and 9 miles. Now what you're going to do is independently complete page 2 and page 3. Once you finish both pages, come back to the video and we will do an example on page 4. I'll go over one problem on page 4, and then I'll have you complete the rest of page 4 and page 5 on your own. Problem A says Dion is taking care of his garden. To keep his plants healthy, he adds 7 cups of fertilizer for every 24 cups of soil. At this rate, how much soil will Dion need for 18 cups of fertilizer? So I always like to underline what the question's asking for. They're asking about fertilizer. So that tells me that I need to figure out how much for 1 cup of fertilizer. So I know fertilizer will be on my denominator. So this says 24 cups of soil divided by 7 cups of fertilizer. So just remember, the problem won't always give it to you in the order that you need to divide. So you have to think, what do I need 1 of? So now I'll do 24 cups of soil divided by 7 cups of fertilizer, and I get this long number. I know we're only going 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, so this is either going to be 3.42 or it's going to go up 1 to 3.43. It all depends on the next number after the 2. If it's 5 or higher, which it is, it's an 8. So that means it bumps it up to 3 43/100 cups of soil per 1 cup of fertilizer. Now that we have our unit rate, we can multiply this by 18. And we get 61.74 cups of soil for 18 cups of fertilizer. Let me just show you a neater version of this. So this might be an easier version for you to see. Go ahead, check your work, make sure you have this down, and then complete pages 4 and 5. Come back to the video when you're ready for page 6. All right, for page number 6, go ahead and complete our common misconception problem and our closing problem. Once you finish both of these, come back to the video to check your work. All right, let's go ahead and check our work for the common misconception problem. The correct answer here is Shelby is correct. To figure out the number of steps in 70 seconds, we have to first figure out how many steps in 1 second. Therefore, seconds should be your denominator when you divide. Once we figure out our unit rate, we can multiply by 70, and we get 140 steps in 70 seconds. Go ahead and check your work, fix any errors, and then make sure you completed all of the closing problem before coming back to the video. All right, let's check our answer for our closing problem. For plan A, you should have done dollars divided by minutes, and then we can see that plan A is 9 cents per minute. Plan B, when we do dollars divided by minutes, is 11 cents per minute. If you don't have that down, go ahead and write that down now and pause the video. So which is a better deal? Would you rather pay 9 cents a minute or 11 cents a minute? Well, I know 9 cents is cheaper. So plan A is a better deal at 9 cents per minute. Plan B is 2 cents more expensive at 11 cents per minute. All right. Part B says, at the same rate, how would cell phone A, how much would it cost for 500 minutes? It would cost $55. We do 11 cents times 500. And then C, it would cost $45. Pause, check your work, fix any mistakes. To close out today, we're going to answer 3 debrief questions. Our first one, in your own words, what did you learn today? Sometimes it's helpful to flip back a few pages and just review your work. How much effort did you put in today? Rate yourself 1 through 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, and explain. And then, what do you think is a common misconception a student might make when learning about unit rate and rate? Once you finish these 3 questions, we're going to go back to page number 1 and we're going to rate ourselves on our learning targets now that we've gotten some more practice in. How are you feeling? 1 through 5. 1 is the least confident, 5 is the most confident, and remember, you're rating yourself on how confident you feel about these learning targets. Thank you for joining us today at Middle Math Academy. Once again, this was level number 4. If you're looking for more of a challenge, feel free to check out level number 5. We also have levels 1 through 3 available. Have a wonderful day.